Let's look at another side then, and we'll look at the hosts, Germany. Now, Germany, I think it's fair to say, have had an indifferent time over the last sort of 10 years in international football. We've seen highs and lows. We've seen massive changes in the squad, in the management. And obviously, they come into this with a young, highly rated manager in Julian Nagelsmann. And they come off the back of a team in the Champions League final, a team in the Europa League final, new Bundesliga champions, and a Bayern Munich side that, although failed to win the title, still possess great talents. They're on home soil. What about Germany, Dave? Should we be worried about them again? Are they back on the kind of map as favourites for this?
I don't think they're favourites by any means. And let's be honest, this is probably one of the weaker Germany sides that we've seen, particularly in the last couple of decades. I still think there's some things missing in there. There are debates about whether they've got as many leaders as they have had in the past. You look at especially that midfield as well. I think there's obviously some senior players in there like Segundo and Toni Kroos, but I just worry about whether they've got the legs in there against some of these other teams that have got so much power and mobility in those areas that I just wonder whether when they stack up against, whether they'll be able to. They probably lack a goal scorer who's really capable of putting games to bed.
I think it's probably likely that we'll see Kai Havertz starting up front for them, particularly considering the form that he kind of hit at the end of the season. And then they'll look for, there's two really bright sparks in this team, isn't there, that will play just behind the striker. We're talking about Jamal Musiala and Florian Wirtz, who there's genuine Ballon d'Or talk over him with the season he's just come off the back of with Leverkusen. And it's interesting because I feel like there is a massive transition phase for them right now. Like you look at some of the players they omitted from the squad. Obviously didn't call up Mats Hummels after he helped Dortmund get to a Champions League final. Julian Brandt missed out. Karim Adeyemi missed out, all from that same side. Goretzka's not in there. So there is clearly a bit of a passing of the guard. And Florian Wirtz and Musiala in particular seem like that is who Germany want to build their future around. So even without a necessary obvious goal scorer as a number 9, does that kind of suit them a little bit to at least be able to bring those two players in? Plus, when you consider the width coming from players like Sane, Gnabry, obviously, we know what they can do at that sort of level.
Oh, yeah. I think there's still some young talent coming through. Maximilian Bayer from obviously had a really good season at Hoffenheim as well. There is, you mentioned there's some real young talent. And I think it's similar to Italy's transition as well. You actually look at some down the age groups, especially, they're performing really well, or down the age groups. I think that we'll see some real talent come through there in the next couple of years as well. It's definitely a transitional period. Let's not forget, this is Nagelsmann's still quite new to this team. I think him actually stamping his imprint on this tournament would be really intriguing to see. And a bit like you mentioned there, I think it would be interesting to see whether he does go with Kai Havertz in similar sort of role to what he plays at Arsenal and play that kind of false 9 position, which is probably the way to go for them, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think when you consider that some of these players have obviously had quite disappointing club seasons with Bayern, and then you have that balance of then looking at players like Toni Kroos and Rudiger who have just come off the back of winning the Champions League, whether this squad can connect really quickly and move forward together is huge, because there's always been a bit of a feeling of maybe cliques within the Germany camp, the Bayern players being together, a bit like we used to see with England as well. And Nagelsmann will have a big job in his hands to manage that. But home tournaments always throw a bit of a spanner in the works, don't they? So how much of an advantage do Germany have from that side of things?
I don't know if I see it as a huge advantage, to be honest. I'm just going to say I think there are, I wouldn't say they're probably, definitely not first or second favourites. I think they're probably arguably 5th favourites in this tournament. I think there are much better teams in there. We've seen strange things. Italy definitely weren't the favourites for me the last tournament and went on to win. So I think if things fall nicely for them, then there's that opportunity. I've got them in a pretty good position, to be honest.
Where have you got
them playing in the quarters? Sorry, in the round of 16 against Denmark. So if they can beat them, they're in the quarters, and then anything can happen.
I've got them getting to the quarterfinals. I think that'll be where they get to, personally. And I don't think that will be necessarily received very well from the home support. I think there will be a heavy expectation on them, particularly because of that home tournament.